Hello. Good afternoon. How's it going, everyone? Stuffeyy. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon here from a not so sunny UK, but at least it's light outside, unlike it was last week when we had the Vegas Grand Prix at an obscene time of the day. But yes, we are ready to rock and roll here for this weekend where the Drivers' Championship could mathematically be wrapped up. Lando Norris could be your new Drivers' World Champion by the end of Sunday. Will it happen though, or will it go to Abu Dhabi? We will see. Of course, sprint race weekend, guys. Sprint quaddy this afternoon. Later on this afternoon. Later on in your evening or your day, wherever you are. So, yes, green light, pit exit open. FP1, the solitary 1 hour of practice that we have here this weekend is just got underway. So, yeah, there we go. Let's see what the drivers have in store for us. But welcome, everyone. Who do I think is going to be world champion? I still think Lando. Yeah, whether he'll wrap it up here this weekend. I mean, if you tuned into my preview and predictions, I think he will wrap it up here this weekend. I just do not see the McLaren being good here. So, good afternoon from South Africa. Good to see you, Pat. Welcome, everyone. Sunny Cornwall, Lee. Oh, it's nice and warm down where you are. It's not particularly warm here. Oh, we've got a bit of a delay with the track map by the looks of it. That's a bit odd in the middle of the afternoon with the track map. Just going to reload this, guys. That's not ideal. It's not a good start to the weekend, is it? I know it's not the be-all and end-all when it comes to just practice, but we want, of course, everything as up to date as possible. I'll set everything up. Oh, apparently there has been work to Lando's car this morning. That's intriguing to hear. So there we go. There we go. Hopefully it'll be all right. Welcome, everyone. Hope you're good. Hope you're good. If Lando wins a sprint, I feel like he'll have the flow and just sweep the race. Whoever gets pole out of the free championship protagonist is probably going to win the race. Potentially. Pole isn't the be-all and end-all here, though, as we have seen, of course, some slow starts from those. I think pole starts on the off the racing line here. I could be wrong. I think pole starts on the inside line. But we've seen, of course, with the nature of the first corner and the first sector in general, that we do get wheel-to-wheel racing here. And, of course, we've seen collisions. Imagine the front three in the championship are the front three and they go side by side into turn one. Could see one of them ended up out of the championship overall by being removed from the race. All the way from Slovakia. Good to see you, Pat. You need a podium for Ferrari. Going to be a tall order for them here. You're long awaiting rain in Western Cape. You can take some of ours here in the UK. They were adding extra planks so they can wear it down and still be in the regs. I don't think that's an issue here this weekend, though. I think that was a very unique set of circumstances at Vegas, and I don't think they're going to experience that here. A lot warmer this weekend for racing, yes. So air temperature is 25.9 degrees, track temperature is 33.1. So apologies for kind of where the race control is at the moment. I can't really put it over here anywhere because I feel like it's just in the way, and it'll be too small. So it is where it is, although it's covering up irrelevant information at the moment. So drivers out there on the hard compound tyres, remember here this weekend Pirelli have mandated that no set of tyres can do more than 25 laps. So that means a mandatory 2-stop on Sunday. It's longer, 7 laps longer than what happened back in 2023, where we had only 18 laps being allowed on one set of tyres. 25 is a lot more, so it's probably getting into the range of where, yes, we'll actually see degradation, but it will probably help some of the drivers out and the teams out who maybe suffer more deg than others, so that those who are much better on deg don't basically do a one-stop or able to take a set of tyres a lot longer. If hypothetically they score some points and take each other out in Abu Dhabi, how will they decide the world champions then? It'll all be on countback. It always goes back to who has the most wins. What is all the talk over Hamilton's tyres? I don't know. Is there a lot of talk about Hamilton's tyres at the moment? I mean, everyone's on the hard compound tyres, so I don't really know what that would be in relation to. Qatara's just always been one of those tracks which is just fun to watch. I think it's fun to watch the cars go round here. As I said, I think it's a hot lap track. I think it's qualifying is going to be really good. It's fun to watch the cars go full tilt round here, but there's no hard braking zones, and that's the problem. Is that it makes it tricky to overtake, and there's just a lot of dirty air that is displaced. So I'm not 100% sure that DRS zone is long enough, to be honest with you. We'll see in the sprint race tomorrow, but I've got a suspicion that's not long enough, and I think it needs to probably be longer so that it's more effective. But we'll see, because that's really the only place to overtake is down into turn 1. We do sometimes see into turn 4 if someone's struggling on their tyres through turn 2. They become susceptible. But Alex Albon complaining about his helmet, but there's something wrong with the visor. Double vision. That's not what you need when you're driving an F1 car, is it? Especially at this track. Will we see a Monaco situation with cars backing up the field to make a pit window? No. No, not here. Because you can, while it's tricky to overtake, you can overtake. So you won't be able to back up the pack as much as you think, because you will eventually become susceptible to an overtake down into turn 1 and through the first sector. I mean, we have seen overtakes in the middle sector. It's not impossible, but you do need a significant tyre delta, especially in this iteration of the regs. Yeah, it's just tricky to follow in that middle and specifically last sector. We saw so many drivers last year lose time through like turn 15. Turn 15's a killer of a corner for these guys because they just lose so much time. They start to lose that front grip and they just get the dirty air. And then, of course, turn 16, they're just not able to stay close enough. So, heard anything about Yuki's seat next year? Yeah, so supposedly, from what I've heard, just from like TV coverage and that, Yuki's lost his seat and Hadjar's been promoted. Yuki has been very downbeat in his interviews and stuff as well. And we're going to get we're going to know we're going to know the whole Red Bull lineup next week in Abu Dhabi is what they were reporting. You think the track is quality? It's one of those tracks. Yeah, it's built for motorbike race, isn't it? It's built for Moto GP and superbikes and stuff. So, what's my beverage of choice tonight? I've just got a Monster at the moment. I am at a family event tonight, so I will be having some beverages, probably some mixture of cider and some beers. I heard the number that announced the drivers right after the race. Yeah, it might be right after the race. It's probably going to be in the lead up to Abu Dhabi. So, how many push laps are we going to get with a set of tyres? This track is undoubtedly a single kind of push lap scenario. It's one of those tracks. It's such a high-loaded circuit, medium to high-speed corners. That's why many are favouring McLaren, myself included. Lots of degradation here, lots of lateral load, so a lot of energy put through the tyres, and that's why Pirelli have introduced that 25-lap cap on one single set of tyres that can be done, and that includes even if that is under safety car conditions as well. They're like no more than 25. It is the total tyre life cannot exceed 25 laps, regardless of the speed that they're carrying. So, yeah, it's it's one of those circuits. I just hope that with the introduction of that mandatory two-stop, it is an interesting race and it does provide some intrigue for us. Because otherwise, yeah, this can fizzle out. Hey Andy, I'm all good, thank you. Hamilton's last time out, he came out the pits with new tyres and moved up the field until Hulkenberg. What has happened to his tyres? He's on the same set of tyres, Hamilton, but it looks like he's coming to the pit lane, maybe just for a quick change or something. Maybe a front wing change. There's going to be, of course, lots of things that I need to get done, as it always is in a sprint race weekend. It does always provide the opportunity of drivers and teams getting it wrong with their setup. They only have an hour to dial it in, especially if there is a yellow flag or if there's a red flag. It could really interrupt the drivers. But a lot of teams here, they've been coming. It's not a track that is brand new to them. Some teams have performed better than others here. They know particularly how to set up the cars. And it's a much smoother track surface as well. So there isn't going to be that difficulty in relation to the ride height that we saw, of course, with McLaren in the Vegas Grand Prix and other tracks throughout the season. There you go. Hamilton up into P5 now. So, yeah, it's we are going to see push laps here for sure towards the end of the session on the softs, no doubt, because we go into sprint quali in just a few hours' time. They're doing very well, thank you, Matt. Yeah, little one's growing quick. She's just finished her lunch, as you could hear her there, just groaning to get out of her high chair after she was finished. So, do I support McLaren, Red Bull, or any other? I don't really support any team, no. Growing up, I supported McLaren, but I've said this before, and it's really strange, but I don't associate with the McLaren of today. And the main reason for that, and it may seem so trivial, but I associate McLaren with silver and red, or like obviously like the Vodafone era, those liveries, the West liveries like Hakkinen, Coulthard, Lewis Hamilton, Jensen, but like that was my McLaren growing up. I wasn't alive, wasn't born when kind of Senna and Mansell were still at McLaren. So going to the Papaya, I felt like I'm not really connected to that, and I don't really connect with any kind of team, I guess. I more so follow the drivers than I do the teams. What are my thoughts on Adrian Newey being announced as Aston Martin team principal for next year? Yeah, that's an interesting one. That's caught everyone by surprise, and myself included, because he is a designer. However, I think what obviously that has done is that there was lots of rumours, if you guys remember, there were lots of rumours when Adrian Newey and the whole Red Bull hierarchy, the whole power struggle was going on, and last year, and it resulted in Newey leaving and Jonathan Wheatley leaving. There was a rumour that went about, and I can't remember if you guys remember it, that Newey kind of left because he wanted to be team principal at Red Bull, and it kind of got swept under the rug there, really, and everyone was like, really? Like, he wanted to be team principal? Surely not. And I think that now leads into the truth that rumour was correct, because him being team principal, it's a very different approach for Aston Martin, for sure. A very different approach than maybe what they've had beforehand. Maybe it will do well for them. I mean, we've seen James Vowles, who has that technical engineering aspect, who's doing well at Williams. You've got, I always forget his name. I'm doing him a disservice here. The Haas's lead team principal. He was head engineer as well. So I think we are maybe going down this route now of teams. Maybe this is a trend now where we're seeing teams decide to pick team principals based on their actual knowledge of the cars, and being kind of integrated within the teams before just taking over, rather than just kind of businessmen to an extent, being at the top, or not having that much. You know, I think that's probably the trend that we're going to see. But I don't know. I think Newey isn't going to be your typical team principal. He's not a very outspoken person. He's done a few interviews. If anyone has listened to him in interviews, he's quite a quiet guy. He's not a very loud guy by any means. So I think what you'll see from Newey is he'll surround himself with people who can do the things that he doesn't necessarily want to do, and he'll be a very different type of team principal than maybe what we've seen before. But definitely surprised. ATW, Did every team use the special liveries this season? I don't think so. No. Piastri finally locking in again. He's P2. This is very early on in practice. Very early on in practice. I do expect Piastri to go quite well here. This is a track which should suit him. He's done well here the last 2 times we've been here. And he likes medium to high speed circuits with lots of downforce. That's where his strength is. So I think if there's one track where he can regain some performance, it's here. As Max is reporting, the steering feels really weird. Suddenly, I don't know what it is. Oh, do you want to say hello? It's been a while since you've made an appearance, isn't it? It's baby Stuffeyy. Look how big you've got. Say hello to everyone. Say hello. She's big now, yeah. 14 months now. Why did Max slow down after going purple? Yeah, he was complaining about the steering just then. So. Does Andrea Stella come from a technical background too? He does, yes. Yeah, he was the performance engineer of Michael Schumacher, I think, at one point, wasn't he? I think. Or he was at Ferrari. He came from Ferrari. If Max wins the remaining races, what positions does Lando need? Second. Then he needs to finish second. Even third, I think, actually. Oh, hell, the Queen, yeah. In Hamilton's last race, why couldn't he get past Hulkenberg? So apparently he had to go into, as we've seen so often this season, he's had to go into... Oh, look, Charles Leclerc reporting he doesn't feel a thing with the power steering as well. So that's a few drivers now complaining about the steering. He had to manage his brakes, apparently. That's why his second stint was very slow. So, yeah, I mean, he didn't have damage. You would have expected him to be able to catch and overtake Hulkenberg, but he went into management mode, so. Right. Back you go. That's fine, I'll put her down. She can crawl now, can't she? So she can go that way. If it Max goes P1 and Lando P3 for all 3 races, Lando wins by 2 points at the end of the season. Yeah. So I still think it's a tall order for Max. 24 points behind, obviously. Never rule him out. He's back in it. His best opportunity is to, of course, lead out of the first corner and try and hold the McLarens up as best as possible. But I just, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that... I would say you're probably approaching 2 race circuits now, which are at the weaker end of the Red Bulls, of the Red Bulls performance window. And he's been able to get back into this championship, as he said himself, rightfully so, through the failures of others. I think if anyone has seen that interview, that's 100% correct. He's not been in this championship because the car has been good, and he's been able to, obviously, he's stayed in it, he's dug out some good performances, but McLaren have obviously messed up themselves as a team, as Oscar has as a driver, as Lando has as well, and that's allowed Max to still be within an opportunity. But his best opportunity is definitely leading down into turn 1, causing some mischief for the 2 McLarens. I mean, no one's really counted. I mean, Oscar Piastri isn't out of this either, by the way. He isn't out of this either. I completely understand why people are ruling him out, because his form has been so poor. But maybe he's approaching these 2 race circuits and has some confidence as well. Let her be. She's too fidgety now, unfortunately. She won't sit still. Is Lando Norris just a modern Rosberg the Carlos Sainz F1 fans don't want to face? I don't think he's a modern Rosberg. No, I think what you'll see... I think Lando can go on to be a very, very... I mean, he's already a good driver, and he's going to be a world champion for a reason. And I think it'll be a well-deserved champion. And I think it could be something where he kicks on from. If he's obviously finds himself in a team where he's able to have a race-winning car. With a new set of regs, no one knows what's going to happen. But yeah, it could be kind of that monkey off the back for Norris, where he then goes on and wins 2 more. You just never know. I think what we've seen from Norris is that, and I've said from the start of the season, I think his peak is a lot better than Oscar Piastri's, whereas Piastri has been a lot more consistent. And of course, it's only his 3rd year, and he's improved year on year. But for someone like Norris, this is kind of one of those moments where, I mean, for him to turn this 30-point lead, or loss that he had, deficit to Oscar Piastri around to, okay, apart from the disqualification, basically it was a 30-point gap to with just 2 races remaining. It's now 24 after the DQ. Is no one expected. No one expected. Norris said they knew the entire time it's not possible to fix blanks between sessions. Yeah, so that was why he looked downbeat on the interviews, and why he looked downbeat on the podium. Everyone was commenting on that, and I noticed it as well. And yeah, they knew when they got out of the car that there was an issue with it, and that they could have been DQ'd. So it's probably why he didn't stick around afterwards. He shot straight off, didn't he? Peter, you agree with my McLaren analysis? I think 2 of the past and the name Bruce. Also, always enjoy Kimi Räikkönen, Mika Häkkinen, Michael Schumacher, but I'm 77 years old, so there you go. Yeah, you see a lot more F1. Been around for a lot more F1 than me, Peter. But yeah, I think it's like, when F1, they do that, don't they? They change their colours, they change their... They change kind of sometimes the identity of their team. And with like your sports teams, whether it be football, like whatever sports team it is, if they change like their, obviously you got away jerseys which change kind of every year, but if your team fundamentally changed the colours that you associated them with, so as an example, I'm a West Ham fan in the Premier League, claret and blue, if then all of a sudden they went to yellow and blue as their home kit, there'll be a real identity crisis, and I just wouldn't be able to associate with the team anymore. I know they're West Ham, but it's like, it's not my West Ham. West Ham fan, I'm so sorry. I know, Murray. I know. It's always worse. You could be a Spurs fan. Sorry, Spurs fans. Sorry, I'll stop with the football chat. We'll get back to F1. Do I think Oscar will give any tough time to Lando in Qatar? I think he can do, yes. I think if there's one track that is arriving at him at the right time here when you're on a poor run of form, is this one. Oscar does much better at high downforce circuits, and I think this is a track where he will feel much more comfortable at. However, the problem for Oscar is that Lando, I think, still will have no concerns about Oscar. He will still look at the previous X amount of races and see that he has been beating him comprehensively. And Lando is also good at this track as well. Arguably should have won it last year. Of course, there was the double yellow flag infringement, which got him that DQ, not a DQ, the penalty, which the drive-through penalty that you had, or the stop-go penalty. So Lando is going to be very strong here again this weekend, and Lando doesn't really have to do anything like dramatic here. But at the same time, he doesn't want to roll over Lando, so it's fine margins. I mean, the best thing for obviously Lando is to try and go out there on pole, qualify on pole, and lead into the first corner. And then if he's got clean air, we know how strong that McLaren is. But I still think in dirty air, whether he's behind his teammate or whether he's behind Max Verstappen, I think it's almost like a waiting game with these tyres. And I think Lando will probably just pick him off eventually. Oh, we have a yellow. Charles Leclerc running off there through turn 5, complaining about his power steering in that Ferrari, and well, he's just run off a bit wide there through turn 5. Do I think we'll see peak performance by drivers because of the physical risk associated with this circuit? Don't know. It's not going to be like what it was a few years ago, because it's not going to be. We've got 7 additional laps on top of the 18. From 2023. So not every single lap is going to be like a qualifying lap. There will be some form of management that will have to occur with the race on Sunday. I hope that's the case, because we need degradation. Otherwise, if we saw these drivers go 100% in 2023, and we saw how much of a boring race it can be. So, do I think Max will win? Personally, Not on pure performance, no. I don't. I think, I know people said, of course, he's won here the last 2 years. And look, last year's car, he was on the front row. Arguably, he qualified on pole, didn't he? But he had that penalty for impeding George Russell. This car is very different to last year's car. Very, very different. And I think this is very much a McLaren track. I know I've said that so many times, but this is where McLaren has excelled this year, is managing the temperature of the tyres, being able to manage the balance of that car from the medium and high-speed corners. Whereas for Max and Red Bull, that's arguably been where they're weakest at. The long high-speed corners, that's where the car starts to slide. It gets understeer. Now that Red Bull has improved, undoubtedly it has improved, and they've been able to make sure that it's not as severe as the season has gone on. But in relation to the McLarens are still superior in that zone. So you still don't understand how Piastri has had so many bad races after such a good start. Well, it's just purely driver error. It all comes down to driver error. I think a lot of it is mental. I think there is arguably the case that maybe the car has not, as Leclerc is really going at it on the radio about the power steering. Says he cannot feel a thing, which is bizarre. A lot of it is mental. I think he's lost confidence in the car. He's lost confidence in himself. He's arrived at a time in the season where it's at circuits where he's not historically been quick at, especially in comparison to his teammate, where his teammate has excelled. And he's seen a 30-plus point lead just disappear. And I don't think there's anyone else to blame but himself. I know like people will blame McLaren for it, and you look back at Monza and supposedly he said Monza really affected him. Okay, that's fair enough. That's fair enough if it affected you, but you need to get over that quick. Like, that was only 3 points. It's not like you lost 13. It's not like you lost 30 points in one, which is impossible to do, of course. But you still had a sizable and substantial lead over your teammate after Monza. You should have put that to the back of your mind and gone on and performed in the following races, and he didn't. And he's allowed that to just disappear. And look, that's the nature of professional sport. That's the nature of being at the top of sport, like especially if you've never found yourself in that scenario before, because you don't know necessarily how to deal with it. This is what these guys have worked for their whole life to earn, is an opportunity to win a Drivers' World Championship. And it's very, very different as well when you're in the public eye. More so, like all the attention is on you every single race weekend. You get asked all these questions, so you can't. It must be tricky for these guys to try and remove themselves and just go about their business, because everyone wants a piece of them, whether it be the media, the public, fans, and they're just trying to focus on their race. And if you make a couple of odd mistakes, then they're highlighted even more when you're in the run for a championship than if you're just fighting for a podium or you're fighting for the odd race win here and there. So. Yeah, that's why obviously Max Verstappen has been able. That's why Max Verstappen, when he's got close, people have favoured him because he's been there and done it so many times. First corner action, whether McLaren botched defending their grid position. Maybe. Do I feel the McLaren might suffer a bit if they have to raise their car a bit? So the McLaren will lose performance if they have to raise their ride height. That's just a given. That's basically the laws of physics. However, I don't think they're going to have to compromise their ride height at all here or at Abu Dhabi. Vegas was a very unique circuit, very unique set of characteristics. Of course, it's a street circuit for one. It's not purpose-built. It's not got nice, smooth tarmac on it. Of course, the interrupted running, throughout the weekend meant that, of course, they got their setup arguably wrong. They didn't have enough data to do it. I still don't think that's a valid excuse, though, because everyone else didn't get disqualified. But I think what they did is that they took an unnecessary risk to chase performance, which they didn't need to do. This season, McLaren's weakness has been the low downforce street circuits. And they've been comprehensively beaten by Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull. And I think they were like, right, let's learn from our lessons and let's chase that extra performance. And the drivers clearly were on board with that as well. And it's backfired on them. So, but I don't think here, with a purpose-built race circuit, with a much smoother track surface, they're not going to have to worry about bumps. They're not going to have to worry about the uneven surfaces where the plank is going to wear out. There will be some, of course, but I don't think they're going to have to compromise at all. And I still think, even if they had to raise the ride height slightly, I still think that the advantage that they have through the medium and high-speed corners on that tyre management is still going to be superior than that of Max in the Red Bull. But strange things have happened in F1. Norris could be on high fuel or have the engine turned down right now. Yeah, they're all doing their own run plans. Look, don't have a look. The hard compound tyre right now is not really... These runs are purely for data gathering. That's what they are right now. They're purely for data gathering to find out how the setup is in their car and get an idea also of the deg on these tyres, on the hard. So, yeah, I mean, you've seen drivers out there already complain about power steering, Leclerc, Max Verstappen as well complaining about it. So it's all about getting the car dialed in. They'll come in half an hour through this session already, halfway through FP1, the only practice session we have here today. Once they've got off the hard compound tyre, probably, I reckon, with 20 minutes remaining, maybe 15 minutes remaining, we'll see the soft compound tyre go on and we'll see some push laps. And that's where we'll get a decent idea heading into sprint quali at this early stage of the weekend, where the pecking order is, if we get clean laps, of course. And then, remember, drivers and teams can change the car setup once the sprint race finishes tomorrow and qualifying into qualifying for the race on Sunday. So that can allow drivers a redo, a mulligan, as somewhat for those who don't necessarily get it right from FP1. So just watching us happen, Oscar Piastri. So Oscar Piastri had a little bit of a wobble through the corner there. What do I think about a titanium conspiracy where teams are applying titanium to the underside of planks to prevent plank wear? So supposedly, I read somewhere that was actually just a rumour. I don't think it's been confirmed by the FIA that is actually what teams were doing. So I think that was just a baseless rumour. I could be wrong, but I think I can't remember where I saw it, but I think I saw it from someone reputable who said it's just a rumour. So I don't think that has had any part to play in McLaren having that DQ in Vegas. As I said, I just think they were chasing performance in Vegas at a street circuit that they've been historically weak at. Remember, it's not just this season they've been weak at those sort of circuits. Vegas has been a track which they've always been weak at. So they took a risk to try and increase their performance levels. And yes, it did increase their performance levels because Lando finished second. But it wasn't the right risk to take, especially at this stage of the season with what is on the line with the Drivers' Championship. Yeah, it's a sprint race weekend. That's why there's only one practice session. Albon hit 311 kilometers on the front straight. Oof. It's really disappointing to hear Lewis saying he's not looking forward to the next one. He must be so demotivated. Yeah, but that's Lewis, though, and I think that's racing drivers in general. Lewis's mood would change very, very quickly, as would any driver's mood change very, very quickly, if all of a sudden the car feels good underneath them. So Lewis is particularly someone who's been, obviously, as they say, wears his heart on his sleeve. Kind of doesn't hold back. It's very easy to see kind of what, to an extent, is going through Lewis Hamilton's mind, because, yeah, he kind of displays that. But I think it's a simple case for racing drivers is that if they start next season and the car's good, then all those worries that they've had are very quickly forgotten about. Psychology of a title fight. Why one bad sprint could collapse a contender. Yeah. Dan, regarding these random selected checks on the plank wear post-race, do they check all cars or not? Or if there is a DSQ, do they then only check all cars? So no, they don't. So the checks are random. They are random. Supposedly, so they can decide to just do... From what I understand, my understanding of it is that they can decide to test the whole field one week if they want, and the next week they can decide to test no one. But that's literally how random it could be. I don't think they've ever tested everyone because it's a time-consuming process. However, I do feel like, yeah, if someone is disqualified, they should and I don't think this is the rule, but I think if someone is disqualified, I don't think they then take the time and effort to go and check everyone's plank wear. But yeah, I mean, arguably you could say that McLaren maybe baited themselves out to having a check done on their car because of their radio messages, because of the dramatic lift and coast that they had to do. And, of course, it was still fine margins that they failed the test by and got disqualified. But maybe that's the case. I mean, we're only human. I mean, if you're maybe not necessarily paying attention to something and you're not seeing all those sparks on the TV or... I mean, I imagine the race control have umpteen amount of things that they're kind of looking after and focusing on at the time. They can... Maybe they've heard those radio messages towards the end of the race and they've gone... Yeah, we need to check those McLarens because, yeah, they are actually sparking quite a lot. I didn't really notice that throughout the race. And, fuel? Really? Really? They're lifting coasting that much because of fuel and they're sparking that much? Join the dots up, and that's why they chose them. So maybe they baited themselves out. On BBC and Sky, they said all cars were checked. If not, how can you randomly select both McLarens? That process is not fit for purpose. To an extent, yeah. So they don't, yeah. I heard that they only tested the top 10. That's what I heard. They only tested the top 10. Also because Oscar and Lando were sparking a lot. Yeah, definitely. I think that did have a factor. But we've seen cars spark a lot before and they don't get tested. So I think maybe, yes, that they may have very well decided early on that they were going to test Piastri and Norris's cars, or it may have been just the radio messages at the end that solidified that decision for them. This is a MotoGP track. It doesn't suit F1 at all. Barely ever we got good races here. All races were won by a driver who led after lap 1. Yeah, I think it's very much a track. It's a qualifying track. It's a track that is great to see these drivers go at full speed on. And I imagine it's probably good fun to drive on a qualifying lap. But as a race circuit itself, especially with how prevalent the dirty air is, that's the main issue, isn't it? The dirty air is so prevalent through here. There's no hard braking zones, so there's no way to kind of outbrake someone, go for a late lunge. And I think the DRS, I mean, they can change the DRS over the course of the weekend. And I hope if they see tomorrow with the sprint race... I hope if they see tomorrow that the DRS isn't that effective, that they increase its length, because I'm not entirely sure that that's going to be sufficient, because trying to stay close out of turn 15 and turn 16 on the driver ahead of you on equal tyres is very difficult. Very, very difficult. You need a tyre delta to have that extra front grip through turn 16 in particular. I mean, turn 16 is a horrible corner, really, to end the lap on, because it's just all on your front tyres. Your front tyres are hurting so much by the end of the lap. I mean, there's no respite at all for the front left here. No respite at all. Maybe through turn 5 and turn 6, but everything is just all leaning on the left-hand side, on that front left, and by the time you get to turn 16, it's screaming at you. You think a safety car is likely? I think we will see one. Yeah, I think we will. I think we're starting to see some mechanical issues creep in. And I think with the nature of this circuit, I think we've seen 100% safety cars here. And I think with it being tricky to overtake, we see desperate lunges into turn 1. And it's tricky to try and keep it side by side, even though there's room to go side by side through turn 2. To try and keep it tight on the inside there when your front tyres are hurting, you just understeer, and that's why we see kind of lots of car contact. You predict 2024 again? Maybe. I mean, it's funny, isn't it? Because that safety car in 2024 was due to a wing mirror falling off, wasn't it? Do I think Piastri has a chance? He still has a chance. Mathematically, he still has a chance. So, yeah, definitely. Don't rule him out. Don't rule him out. As I said, motor racing is a fickle thing. All it takes is for Piastri to have a decent qualifying this afternoon in the sprint quali, and he's got a boost of confidence again. And it's like, right, I'm in here for the weekend. So, yeah, it's very, to a certain extent, it is quite easy. It's much more easier probably to lose your confidence than it is to gain it. But yeah, there's definitely ways to boost it, especially if he out-qualifies Norris of all people. What is the initial thickness of the skid plate before the race? 10 millimeters, I think it is. And then they're allowed 1 millimeter of wear throughout the race. Do I think Lando will be champion this weekend? Personally, yes, that's my prediction. I am hoping it goes to Abu Dhabi, guys. I am. Because Abu Dhabi is a boring race weekend, let's be real. And what do we have to look forward to? Hang on. Verstappen reporting, feels like the damping is really bad on the car. Every time I'm off throttle, the car is jumping a lot. That's not good for Max. Let's be real. I mean, what have we got to look forward to in Abu Dhabi if the Drivers' Championship is wrapped up, eh? P2 in the Constructors? Who gives a hoot about that? Is my strategy, read the comments to understand what resonated, take what's useful, ignore the noise, and use it to make the next video better? Yeah, I mean, Yeah, I mean, I guess what I do is... I do like to read the comments. I like to see, obviously, what everyone is saying and everything. And that's like with my last video, obviously, with the whole manipulated thing. It was just, that was a valid question that people were asking. Well, that's not a valid question, because it's not a valid question, but that's what people were asking genuinely online. And I was like, really? Like, you think it's manipulated? No, it's just it's a technical infringement. It's pretty black and white. It's a measurement. And McLaren only have themselves to blame. But yeah, no, I definitely always try to make the next video better. And I try and base my logic, base my opinions and everything around logic and from what I'm reading and ascertaining from the information. Obviously, there's reputable sources that I take information from and not just like the baseless rumours from Reddit, as an example. So, Piastri 7/10 faster. Yeah, at the moment. Well, Norris is actually a bit quicker than Piastri at the moment, but we should get them. We've got a lot of drivers in the pits right now, so hopefully we'll get some soft running in a second. Your favourite was the prediction. Yeah, the weather update from the predictions video. Yeah, hot and dry. There's no need to. There's no need to elaborate more on that, is there? So. Facebook is great for F1 information. Lol. Yeah. Yeah, you have to do a bit more research now. Like, if you see something online on Twitter, there's a few pages out there. I got caught out by one the other day, actually. And there was, like, a really, like, professional graphic. And then I realised, oh, actually, this is just, like, a brand new account that, fair play, has caught me out. But where is that? Where has that come from? Like, has that come from like a reputable source? Has that come from something someone has said in an interview that might be on in a different language or so forth? But no, so you have to be careful with the information that is put out there online with Twitter and that. And it's kind of, I guess, one of the negatives of Twitter is that because obviously engagement pays, and you can get paid for obviously tweets and stuff on Twitter now. That's probably a negative of, I mean, there's lots of negatives about Twitter, but that's probably one of the extra negatives on it is that people just farm engagement. And of course, with F1, there's lots of rumors that you can put out there that get lots of clicks and they go around very quickly, but there's not actually any substance to them. Apparently next season when the new regs suit Hamilton, so maybe, yeah, I mean, look, the new regs will suit a lot of drivers better than the current cars. It won't just be Hamilton who would probably like them more because of the ground effect era being removed and because they're slightly smaller, slightly narrower, shorter, lighter, only by a small margin, but that's going to feel very, very different to the drivers who have driven these cars for the last 4 years. Exactly, Holy Tips. Yeah, that's exactly what the point that I was making. So, missed all the races since October 28th due to a hurricane in your country. Oh, well, we are glad that you survived that hurricane and you can rejoin these live streams just in time before the end of the season. Why is everyone on hards? Because it's a sprint race weekend. So they have a limited amount of tyres to use throughout the weekend, and there's a lot of lateral load that is put through the tyres here. So the hard compound tyres is probably going to be a tyre of choice. But they want to save those softs for quali tomorrow. They want to save them for the SQ3 potentially as well. So yeah, you need to be careful. The medium is a decent race tyre here, and they need 2 sets of mediums for the sprint quali as well. Remember, SQ1 and SQ2 has to be held on the medium compound tyre. It's only the final qualifying session in SQ3 where you can use the soft compound. Appreciate it, Soph. I would like for Oscar to have a good weekend. Hope he can back up, not agreeing to help Lando as he's still in the fight. Yeah, that was a stupid question. Anyone who is suggesting, this is where I'm saying like about farming and stuff, like engagement. Anyone who is suggesting that McLaren should favour Piastri right now is being ridiculous. Just the same way that it was ridiculous when Piastri was in the lead after Zandvoort by 30 plus points, when they were saying Norris should now support Piastri. No. Piastri is mathematically still within this race. Unless Piastri is not mathematically in the championship heading into Abu Dhabi, he should not support, or McLaren at least should not ask Oscar Piastri to help Lando. Because that's just ridiculous, especially when you've given them equal chances. I know people will say no, but for the most part this year, they've allowed them to fight and go at it for this Drivers' World Championship. To now, while there's still, yes, an outside chance and a slim chance, but while Piastri still has a mathematical possibility of winning the championship, as it has been done in previous years in F1 history, where drivers have had 24 points, even more points gap than what we currently have right now, but from Piastri and Max to Lando, it would be utterly ridiculous. So, and I don't think, of course, McLaren are that ruthless. They've clearly stated throughout this season that they don't have a number 1 driver, and their driver's going to be allowed to fight, and I think it's the right decision. So. Qualifying isn't right after this session, but it's in a few hours' time. Yeah. Cyclone hit Sri Lanka. Oh my dearie me! I didn't even hear about that. To be fair, I didn't even hear about that hitting Sri Lanka. So well, glad. Obviously you're safe. My question is, how long will Nui keep Lance? That is a good question. I think Lance is going to be there until he doesn't want to be there. Let's be real. Do I think Charles should leave Ferrari in 27 and look for Red Bull or Aston? I think so. Yeah, I think if they don't hit the ground running in this new set of regs, I think Charles needs to look elsewhere. I think you've dedicated enough of your time and arguably some like the peak of your F1 career. Benny could say Charles is at his peak at the age he is, late 20s. Still has plenty of time left in F1, but how much more time are you willing to just keep doing the same thing over and over again with Ferrari, especially if you're not seeing change, especially if they're hiring Lewis Hamilton and not willing to accept his advice in how to improve the team? What makes you think that they're going to listen to you when you have no world championships? What makes you think that even if they bring in Lewis Hamilton, they're still not going to make changes, but they're going to do that for you after you've been there for so long? So, yeah, I think for Charles, if he wants to win a world championship, if Ferrari don't hit the ground running in the next set of regs, or at least don't look competitive at the end of 2026, because I think 2026 is going to be a very topsy-turvy year with who is the fastest. I think it's going to be a real interesting year to keep an eye on F1. I think he needs to look elsewhere. Yeah. Sauce are pretty ambitious. Yeah, this is their push laps now. This is drivers going onto some push laps. Other than Hamilton, who is out there on a set of hards, we do have drivers starting to do some push laps, so we'll keep an eye out on their times. Next year is a year, yeah. That's probably what he's told himself every single year, Charles. And, well, how long do you keep telling yourself that? That's the question. What are my predictions? I think Lando's going to dominate here this weekend. I think it's... I have low expectations in the sense of it being an exciting weekend. As remember, guys, that the key to a happy life is low expectations. And I think Lando's going to dominate. I think he's going to win the sprint race. I think he's going to win the race on Sunday. I think he's going to wrap it all up. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I hope it at least goes to the last race of the season. Mediums could be, yeah, mediums are being saved because of, as we mentioned, SQ1 and SQ2, they need to be used, and they'll be used for the race. You have to remember as well, they're probably going to use a set of softs. Depending on how high the deg is, they'll probably use a set of softs when it comes to the race on Sunday. Because there's a 25-lap limit on the tyres that they can use. Land domination. Land domination. Isaac Hadjar, fastest in the middle sector, 27.646. Not sure what his time this is going to be when he comes across the line. His first sector was actually slower than that of Ollie Behrman's, but the middle was a lot quicker, and then the last sector, 21.8. So that's only 3.5 tenths quicker. I thought that'd be a lot more quicker. That's only 3.5 tenths quicker than George Russell's fastest time, which was on the hards. I think, honestly, if Hamilton gets a top 5, you'll be quite happy too. I think he'll be happy if he gets a top 5, to be honest with you. I think after the poor run of form that he's had, especially off the back of Vegas. Steve-O! Hope you're well, mate. It's going to be a race between the main manufacturers in 26 with Mercedes, Honda, and Ferrari. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Audi, who knows what they're going to be, what engine they're going to provide. I don't know. But yeah, I think there's a real possibility next year. I think there's and it might be worth a cheeky little. I wonder what the odds would be. I think there's a real possibility that Aston Martin has the fastest car next year. It's just something. I've just got a feeling that Honda are gonna cook. Honda are cooking, and Honda have got, like, Aston Martin are the only Honda back team next year. I've just got a feeling with Adrian Newey's input as well, that engine's going to be superior to everyone else. And we could see a Lance Stroll 2026 World Champion. Just saying. I'm just saying. Yes, Fernando Alonso is alongside him. But do you really think he's old man? Do you really think if they have a championship winning car next year, they are going to allow Fernando Alonso to win that championship? Hell no. Hell no. Especially if it's just teammate upon teammate. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see that scenario though, because I'd love to see the Alonso crash out. I'm all here for it. I'm all here for it. That's why I think 2026 is going to be chaos. And of course, tune in here for every single race next year. Right, drivers. George Russell is on the softs. Verstappen is on the softs. We have drivers. We have the big boys on the softs now. This is what we want to see. We want to get a sneak peek as to who is going to be quickest here. You're unsubbing from F1 if we have a Stroll World Drivers' Championship. Will Max Verstappen leave Red Bull? At the end, yeah, I think if Red Bull are outside the top 2, it could even be the case that even if they're second, if there is a team that dominates 2026, I think Max is knocking on the door of whichever team principal that is, whether it be Aston Martin, whether it be Mercedes, even Ferrari. Knocks on that door and goes, "Can we chat?" I think that's really the case. Lando going quickest, first and middle sector. Purples across the board. His teammate a little bit off the pace in the middle and second sector. So Oscar's not straight on it on this lap compared to his teammate, who goes fastest with a 20.9. Oscar Piastri making his way around the last corner. What can the Australian do? 24 points behind his teammate, of course, heading into this weekend. And he sets the fastest last sector. So 2 tenths quicker than his teammate in the last sector. And I wonder there, of course, it's still 3.5 tenths, 3.3, around, 3 3/4 tenths behind Norris. But I wonder that last sector there, because he was a bit slower in the first and second sector, as Max only goes third fastest, half a second behind Lando. I wonder if that's because he went slightly slower in the first and second sector, but he had more front grip. Those tyres weren't screaming at him in the last couple of corners. But Max Verstappen, well, there's your first key indicator, your first sneak peek for this weekend at the pecking order. Lando Norris on the first push lap did a 120.9. Oscar Piastri just over 3.5 tenths back. And Max Verstappen, half a second back from Lando Norris. So the top three in the championship are the top three in FP1. And, well, is that something? As there's a yellow, double yellow, as Max is going slow. Max is going very slow through turn 3. As the double yellow has just been removed. What was the deal there with Max? Has he got did he have a brief issue, or was it just because he was slowing dramatically to allow Esteban Ocon through? Scary moment there. Yet to see why I think Max was just going really... I actually think Max just went... I think that was just stewards being overzealous with the yellow flags there, guys. So do not fear. Do not fear. I'm just watching it back on the TV coverage. I think he just slowed dramatically to allow Ocon through into turn 4. Or did he go very wide? Oh, my goodness. Who is that? I think I just saw Fernando Alonso go very, very... no, Lance Stroll go very, very wide and through the gravel trap there. Lots of sparks being thrown up for him. George Russell going slow here. What did he have? Did he have a moment? Oh, Franco Colapinto taking through to the big gravel trap as well. Oh, my goodness. Franco Colapinto had a big snap mid-corner. Mid-corner, Franco Colapinto had a big snap and took to the gravel trap. Lots of drivers dipping their wheels into the gravel, which are on the outside of the curbs, which is new for this year. Did he spin? I don't think he spun. No, the TV coverage hasn't even gone back to show it. I just think I think the stewards went. I think the stewards went very. They were overzealous with the double yellows. I think he just slowed down a lot, and they thought he had an issue, but he was actually just allowing another car through, which was Ocon at the time. So, will Cadillac beat Ferrari next year with the same equipment? Oh my god, that would be something, wouldn't it? Right, Oscar Piastri. So he's going for a second push lap on this set of tyres. Of course, we don't know fuel loads and everything as well, guys. So do not fear. It's not the be-all and end-all. FP1, of course. But keep an eye on Piastri, shall we? Middle sector. What is his middle sector time? Is it purple? No, it's green, no. It's green in the middle sector. Lando's still quite quick, but his first and second sector was slower than previous, and he's slowed down in that last sector after catching some traffic by the looks of it. But Piastri is coming around the last corner. How does he fare? Can he improve? Can he close the gap to his teammate at the top of the timing screens and get one over his teammate? Oh, he can! Oscar Piastri on the second push lap. 29.24, purple last sector, and he's just over half a tenth quicker than his teammates. Chalk that one on the board for Oscar Piastri for this weekend. That'll give him a little boost of confidence to see himself there with only 3 minutes remaining in this FP1 session to top the timing screens. That's what the Aussie needs to start off this weekend. However, check Carlos Sainz out. Check Carlos Sainz out. Fastest in the middle sector out of anyone. A 29.862 in the first. As Fernando Alonso moves up to third. Max Verstappen is in the pit, so his FP1 session seems to maybe have come to a premature end. Not sure if he does have an issue. Carlos Sainz coming across the line. Ooh, full fastest. So no, lost quite a bit of time in that last sector, but purple middle sector for him was very quick. Isaac Hadjar doing quite nicely as well, ahead of Max Verstappen. Supposedly going to be announced next week that he is in that second Red Bull seat in replacement of Yuki Tsunoda, who unfortunately will be out of F1 by the looks of it. If McLaren's expectations are present, they crumble. No expectations towards McLaren the past few weekends where they did okay. This track, though, is right up their alley. Expectations are high. Yep, very true. Very true. Match checking that yellow flag works properly or not. Yeah. I don't know what the lap record is. We'll check it. We'll check it for the next session. Hadjar, I think, is going to be at Red Bull next year, yeah. So. Hope Williams can have both cars performing well at the same time next season. Yeah, I mean, it'd even be nice for Albon to finish this season on a bit of a high. He's been on a very poor run of form, hasn't he? The momentum has definitely been more towards Sainz in the latter stages of this season. Maybe Yuki can finally open his restaurant that he dreams of. Will Cadillac be at least top 5 in the World Constructors title next season? I think that would be an unbelievable effort for a completely brand new team jumping into F1. I think that would be unbelievable. I don't know. I think their aim, of course, they'll have high expectations, but I think if they finish not last, I think that's a positive start to their F1 career because, yeah, very, very rarely does a brand new team enter F1 from scratch because normally teams, brand new in air quotes there, they've already taken over an existing team. So the likes of Audi, they're coming into the sport, but they're taking over Sauber. That's already a pre-existing team. Cadillac is a brand new team, and I don't think we've seen that since Haas. I think Haas back in 2015 was the last time we had, so it's been a decade since we had a brand new team joined from scratch. Literally want Alonso to win 3rd championship next year. It would be something, wouldn't it? It would be absolutely something. So 30 seconds left of this FP1 session. Charles Leclerc there heads up into P8. So not good laps from both the Ferraris, really. I mean, my expectations were low, but Lewis Hamilton looks to be starting a flying lap here. So we'll stay on board with Lewis. I think he's kind of really the only driver out there who's potentially doing so. Will he be able to improve on a set of 4 lap-old softs? Maybe. But nowhere near probably as high as Piastri and Norris. And there you go. There is the checkered flag. That is it for FP1. So Oscar Piastri is fastest with a 120.9. Doesn't look like Lando's going for another push lap, though. You can see there his icon going quite quickly, but that first sector is 2 tenths down on his teammate who did a 29.590. But maybe that actually suits you going a little bit slower in that first sector, so then you have more front grip through the middle and last sector. Lewis Hamilton has already backed out. So Lewis went green in the first sector, but looks like he's probably dipped a wheel in a gravel trap or something and has had to back out of this lap. So not good for him. Lando Norris about to make his way through the middle sector as Stroll moves back up into P9 there with a 21.669, but on 8 lap-old softs. So not fast middle sector for Lando, 29.4. But obviously just getting a feeling as we head into sprint quali in a few hours' time, guys. You've seen a rumour that Red Bull is going to announce its drivers after this weekend. Yeah, I heard the same thing. Yeah. Oh, that's intriguing. A fastest last sector for Lando there on 7 lap-old softs. Interesting. Don't write off Alpine next year as they're going to Mercedes engines. I am going to write off Alpine because there is still a lot behind the scenes that is going on at Alpine that I've heard that is just... they're not a team that is looking to operate at the front end of the grid right now. They're a team that is looking to sell. Simple as. So, yeah, I don't see Alpine... Yes, they may fare better with Mercedes parts, made of Mercedes engines and Mercedes gearbox next year, but I don't expect them to be fighting back up front by any means. Cadillac have already said next year is mainly about building operational procedures. Yeah. And I think as well, Cadillac's aim for the next few seasons will be... The Cadillac's aim over the next few seasons, as you said, will be to solidify themselves in F1 and operationally become sound and help move the team forward because they're bringing their own engine in 2029. So they've got 3 years. So it was going to be 2028, but then they pushed it back, which is an indication that the engine regs might change for 2029, not 2028. So, yeah, they're going to bring their engine in there, GM Motors. So there'll be a whole fully complete works team, and that's really where they probably want to hit the ground, where they then want to be competitive because it's all their own doing then. Not that there's any shame at all in being a customer team in relation to a customer engine. Look at McLaren. They've been using Mercedes engines for God knows how long. Of course, they used Honda previously and Renault as well, but they've always kind of been a customer engine, customer team in that sense with the engine. So, yeah, but I think that's probably Cadillac's aim. How do I think Franco would do better? Do I think Franco would do better in 2026? Yes, I do. I think he'll do better in 2026 because he will have a whole pre-season testing behind him. He'll be familiar with the car. I have been critical of Franco's performances this year, and I think he should have done a lot better than he actually has. And yes, some have said he's had a bit of an uptick in performance recently, but overall, it still hasn't been good enough for him. However, he joins at a time of the year, 6 races into the year, where he hasn't done pre-season testing in that car. He should have kept the car on track a lot more often than he did, of course. But to then have the pressure of not knowing if your contract's going to be renewed, I think everyone kind of always did know it was going to be renewed, but there was conflicting reports about he had 5 races or whatever. It's a very difficult environment to work under. However, I guess that's kind of to an extent why you've seen a bit more of an uptick in his performances, because he's now had umpteen amount of races in that car. But yeah, he should perform much better next year because of being in there from the beginning. How will the chemistry between Lando and Oscar be after the championship? Very different, I think. I think it depends if they're fighting for a championship or not. 2026 is a big if. And just because McLaren are good now doesn't mean they're going to be good next year. And if they are fighting for a championship again next year, I think it's going to be very akin to what we saw with Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton. The first season is a lot more amicable. The second season is very different. Very, very different. And the third, of course, if they're lucky enough to have a third go at it in a row, then, of course, it could be very, very heated. But I think that dynamic is definitely going to change, especially when one of you's got a championship and the other one hasn't. And especially with some maybe feeling that you've been wronged throughout this season as well, which Oscar Piastri clearly feels that he had done back in Monza. So yeah, but if they're not in a team that has a championship winning car next year, then they're going to have to work together to bring that team back up towards the top of the standings again, unless they, like everyone else, looks to try and get a seat elsewhere. However, if no disrespect to Oscar Piastri, but if you've got Lando Norris or Oscar Piastri on offer, let's say you're Red Bull, right? Max Verstappen's left. You've got a seat that's available. Who do I take? Oscar Piastri or Lando Norris? And they're both approached you. Well, if you look at it from Red Bull's perspective, you've got one driver who, yes, made mistakes at kind of the first half of the season, but then was able to turn around a 30-point deficit and win the championship and like come on strong at the end when it matters, and he's already a World Drivers' Champion. And then you've got Oscar Piastri, who really has had one of, if not the biggest collapse in F1 history from a leading position in a Drivers' Championship. While Oscar Piastri, I think, is definitely a lot of room for improvement. If both of them are on offer, I think you're taking Lando, to be honest with you. I think they would take Piastri because of Mark Webber. I don't think they'd take anything because I think Mark Webber has nothing to do with it. I think they'd take Lando. I just think they would. Oscar won't want to be the other car in a one-car team. No, I mean, I think both of them will realise that moving forward, they want to move to a team wherever they... I mean, look, ultimately, sometimes you can't, unless you are like a Max Verstappen or a Lewis Hamilton to an extent. Obviously, Lewis is at the end of his career. But unless you're that caliber of driver who has that amount of world titles behind you, I don't think there's any driver that can go to another top team and just claim that right now I'm the number one driver. But Norris and Piastri, of course, learning from this season, will probably want in the future, whatever their next move is, or whether Oscar moves on or Lando moves on or they stay or whatever, they'll want to secure themselves being the number one driver because, yeah, they've obviously found out this year what it's like to have equal treatment. It's tough. It's tough. I think no one in F1 wants to be a solo. Hey Scott, please share sector times. Yeah, sorry, I didn't get the sector times up. And then I've got to go. And I'll be back for the sprint race. Sprint quali, sorry. So Piastri was quickest in the first sector. Norris was about a tenth quicker in the middle sector. And in the last sector, Norris did set that purple last sector on his last run on like 8 lap old soft. So, look. Don't read too much. Don't read too much into these sector times and in the overall lap times. However, if you are Oscar Piastri, that would give you a little bit of a confidence boost, because I think that's the first time in kind of any session for a while that he has been ahead of his teammates. So, yeah, you need to take any bit of confidence that you can. But proof will be in the pudding when it comes to qualifying. We know practice is not really relevant to an extent. Highest top speed, Sector 1. Oscar Piastri, surprisingly, quickest at the finish line. That's intriguing. So they were carrying a lot more speed out of that last corner compared to everyone else. So that to me is a clear indication of the extra amount of grip that they have than everyone else. In relation to the speed trap, though, which will be at the end of the start-finish straight, you can see Gasly fastest there. Piastri quick as well as Norris. So I'm a bit surprised about that. I'm a bit surprised. Maybe they had their engines turned up a little bit more, or they were running less fuel. So maybe that's an indication. Now, I don't know if they got a slipstream. Of course, slipstream is powerful here as well. Even if you get a slipstream out of turn 16 to the finish line, it can make a big difference. So, yeah. But if you want to know who's quickest, tune in into a few hours' time to the sprint quali, which we will be here for. I now need to leave, guys. I'm going to have to love you and leave you. Have a good couple of hours wherever you are in the world. Go get some rest, and we will see you for sprint quali. Remember to turn your notifications on, but if you stick around, I'm going to end the stream, and it's going to send you straight over to that live stream for you to sit in the waiting room and chat amongst yourselves. So yes, thanks guys. Hit that like and subscribe button on your way out. I did see the subscribers come in, so thank you, and we will see you then. Bye.